It's the moment millions of fans have been waiting for. People across the country have been missing seeing their stars in action during lockdown. But now, taking place behind closed doors, the wait is over. That's right, Brian Gaze and me, Alistair Grant, are back on the Blowing Hot and Cold weather video chat on Zoom and YouTube. Hello.
And Alistair, I'm going to yellow card you straight away if I get that the right way around. This is a record because that shirt is a disgrace. That shirt you're wearing is just going to put people off this show forever and ever. So there's your yellow card.
What? That has got to be a record.
That has to be a record, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you know what, Brian? It's Midsummer's Day. It's 32 degrees outside, and the UK and Ireland's actually hotter than Honolulu in Hawaii today. So, so I'm getting in the mood, you see. That's why I'm wearing it. Now, Brian,
it's 33C in my office here, and I've got this plain boring shirt on. So if I can do it, you know, you can.
Yeah. Brian runs the Weather Outlook website. I'm Britain's top weather journalist. We're joined this evening by weather expert and historian Sryan Bruen. Hello, Sryan.
Hello.
Good to have you with us. And
it's good to be here.
Evening,
sorry?
Yes, thanks, Sryan. Yeah, and on the agenda coming up this evening, we're going to find out why do we have seasons and find out if summer's going to get even hotter than the 32 or 33 degrees we've had today.
Yeah.
But first, in a landmark moment in the history of broadcasting, it's probably up there with maybe the invention of colour television, the moon landings. Brian is going to become the world's first weatherman to do 10 press-ups live on air for getting a forecast wrong.
It's staggering, isn't it? I've got one wrong on the hottest day of the year. You know, you couldn't make that up. I've been escaping these press-ups for weeks and weeks, and you know, now it's 33 Celsius in here, and I've got to sweat my guts out doing this.
That's right.
I admit I got it slightly wrong 2 weeks ago.
What did you go for, Brian, a couple of weeks ago?
I think from recollection, you might know better because I've got a poor memory for statistics, but I think I went for 28 Celsius.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that's right. Yeah, so, and we were about 5 degrees above that.
Yeah.
Have you been in training for this, Brian?
Oh, you must be joking. It's far too hot for me to do any sorts of training. So, so we'll see how it goes.
Complaining.
Yeah, Brian? What are your emotions before this? You know, big moment. I'm sure Neil Armstrong did an interview back in the '60s before he went to the moon. What do you feel about it?
I'm sure I feel just like Neil Armstrong did. You know, terrified and excited at the same time. But you know, I got it wrong. So there we go.
Yeah.
But what about you? What did you say? I've suddenly got my memory back, and I think you went for 29 Celsius, which isn't great either.
You're right that I went for 29, but I also didn't say we were expecting to have any hot or dry weather.
Okay, so it looks like you should join in with the fun too. Just to, just to be honest.
Right, let's do a deal, right? It's true. I got it wrong as well. You got it wrong. Let's do it. Let's make broadcasting history here on Blowing Hot and Cold this evening. So if Brian and I just depart from our screens, we're going to...
If people can't see me, just shout, because it's a little bit difficult in this my office here.
Okay, now, Brian, you're going to start us off with the counting, okay? So wait till...
I'm going to take my glasses off as well first. I'm visible.
Yeah, you're...
Yeah. Get on with it. Get on with it.
Okay, so Brian, you shout the numbers to start with.
Okay, 1, 2, 3,
4, 5, 6, 7,
8, 9, 10.
Wow, we did it!
God, you don't mess around, do you?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I was dreading someone saying, "Can you do a plank?"
I was dreading someone saying, "Can you just keep going a bit lower?"
we did it. We got there. We've made history. The BBC will be on the phone in a few minutes' time, I'd imagine, asking for exclusive clips of this. So, yeah, we did it. Wow, doing that at this temperature actually doesn't take much to get a sweat on.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be me.
I was meaning to buy an air conditioning unit last week, but I talked myself out of it. So.
Oh right.
Mm.
Yeah. Hot work. So yeah, we should do some. We should talk about something rather than just doing our home gym exercise on the show this evening. So it's just after the summer solstice. Why are days longer in summer than winter? Why do we have seasons? And in fact, what would life on Earth have been like if we didn't have seasons? Let's find out. So we're going to start with the world's most famous solar calendar.
Hmm.
It's Stonehenge in Wiltshire in southern England on the summer solstice a couple of years ago. I don't think it was quite this
2019.
nice this year, was it, Brian?
Well, I think there's a giveaway why it's not this year when the photograph was taken. I mean, just what do you think it might be, Alistair?
There's a few people quite close together over there.
That would be it, I think.
Yeah. So over here, if I just zoom in, so Stonehenge is a big solar calendar. That's exactly what it is. And the most important bit of Stonehenge isn't actually the circle. It's this bit here, which is the heel stone, which lines up with the sun rising on the summer solstice. That's exactly what it does. So if I can get this thing to zoom out, we're going to. And how would I do that? Let's think. Oh, there we go. Yep. So we're gonna show what this actually means. So we can put Stonehenge, which we know is Britain's most famous monument, put it into the context of the solstice, and and actually what's really going on. So I'm going to draw on this and make it clear which directions we've got around Stonehenge. So if I put over here a big N, whoops, not that color. Let's do it in black. A big N for north. Over here on this side, we've got a big S for south. Up here, we've got E for east. And over here, we've got a W for west. So what happens is the sun pops up where it is now on the summer solstice, and it actually spins all the way around the sky through east, through south, through west, and it actually sets all the way up here in northwest. So it actually goes through 270 degrees of the sky from northwest, northeast, all the way around to northwest. But on the winter solstice, the sun doesn't come up anywhere near there. The sun comes up over here, not down there, but in this direction, in the southwest, and it goes over here. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry, in the southeast. I put it in the wrong place. Oh my God, I've put it in the wrong place.
Nicely recovered.
It comes up over here in the southeast, and it goes down over there in the southwest, just 90 degrees of the sky compared to the 270 degrees in summer. What do you make of that, Brian?
It's a hell of a difference, isn't it? The summer and winter. I mean, at this time of year, the sun's rising at about 4:45 where I live, and setting at about 9:30, so you're getting 17 hours of daylight. And then come December, we're down to about 8 hours of daylight. And I've always thought that the days at this time of the year are too long, and in the middle of winter they're too short. There's, the happy medium for me is September or March.
Yes, yeah, it's quite it's certainly quite a phenomenal change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huge change.
What do you make of that, Shrine?
I always find it fascinating how they're so different. Like, see, I'm a photographer for starters. Yeah, you can see my camera here. I always observe the different directions the sun rises and sets every day, and see, like, it sets over towards this way. Can you see me?
Yeah, looks good.
It sets over towards this way in summer, but in winter it only sets like around here behind the buildings, and so I can't even see it setting. So summer, it's over there, and sun rising in summer is also over there. but in winter, it's all the way over here on this side.
Yeah. Now, you're really in quite a location there. Is it the Bahamas? Is it Hawaii? Where is it, Shrine?
It's in Borough Beach, Dublin, Ireland. I wish we had Hawaii standard weather. Well, maybe not quite Hawaii, maybe a bit more varied like Canada.
Yeah. Wow, that looks spectacular. So if I just skip forward one image, we can see what Brian was talking about, the massive difference in the times that the sun goes down. I mean, Brian, check that out, hey? The difference we have there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's amazing, isn't it? From north to south, is that huge difference in the Shetlands there. It's about an hour, 23 minutes later than in Jersey. But the other thing to notice on it is the difference between the east and the west. Basically, I mean, the east is ahead of the west. But they've got the same time zones. But I think if you go back in history, for example, Cornwall used to have its own time zone. So, you know, it'd be shown a different time on the clock to London. And people tend to forget that. Yeah, it
must have been difficult on the trains. And going back, Bristol, I'm pretty sure used to have its own time zone because Bristol was one of the world's major seaports a few hundred years ago. Yeah. I mean, although we've got those sunset times up there, that's the time the sun sets. It's not the time it gets dark. So I looked out of the window the other night at 11:15 p.m. and there were still clouds lit by daylight, not by the lights of London where I live, in the north. These were in the northwest. And I woke up in the night a couple of weeks ago, and it was 3:15 a.m. Looked out the window, and it was getting light. The first clouds were getting illuminated from the sun. So
it's a real pain after, because I'm a keen amateur astronomer, and at this time of year you've got to stay up late before it gets dark at all. And then even at midnight, it's still twilight. We've got all night twilight for a few weeks around this time of year. So it's nice in some ways, but it has its drawbacks too.
Yeah, one good thing is the noctilucent clouds that form during this time of year at that time. Otherwise, it is quite the annoyance, because then again, you know, it's never true darkness. Even
a fantastic photograph, Shrine. I don't know whether you saw it of Stonehenge, which showed the noctilucent clouds a few weeks ago.
I actually didn't.
No,
although I've seen plenty of them.
Yeah. Now, let's explain what non-luminescent clouds are. Brian, I'm going to throw in. All I really know is they look really nice in the photos, and they're about 50 kilometers up, and they appear in summer when we have. Now, what air conditioners do we have to have? I wonder to create them.
Yeah, I mean they're
Is it dry? Is it? Well, it
yeah,
must
they're
be
much higher than normal clouds. They're up in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And we've seen a few examples of them recently.
Yeah.
And they're essentially ice crystals, but as Shrine said, visible during the twilight. And at the moment, we've got this all-night twilight.
Yeah, from May to August.
Yeah. Great. So let's go forward one pick. And Brian, I imagine for your astronomy, you must prefer doing that, although it's colder in winter, to avoid getting up in the middle of the night. And look at those sunset times for winter, on the winter solstice across the UK.
Yeah, it's massive differences again. So this time the shortest hours of daylight are in the north, so it's reversed.
Yeah.
So Jersey has on St Helier, and Jersey has the longest day on this table, with Lerwick the shortest. So it reverses.
Yeah, they go from around 6 hours in the north to around 8 hours in the far south of the UK. So why does the length of the days change? I've got something which illustrates that. So, with apologies to Professor Brian Cox, who was unavailable to join us this evening.
Alistair, sorry, I've got to say that if I hadn't yellow carded you already, I think you would be in serious trouble with a graphic like this. Yeah. It looks very colourful, but what on earth is it showing? It's like one of those old Batman cartoons, isn't it, with all the tag straps on there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a
boom, that sort of thing. Whack.
Bit of a sci-fi style graphic. So that's actually the most accepted theory for the creation of Earth's tilt, which is a big planet called Theia, about the size of Mars, walloping the very early stages of planet Earth about 4.5 billion years ago. You can see on the left-hand side that the planet comes in, it wallops into Earth, it blows out some fragments. Bottom left there, I understand that we didn't ever have rings like Saturn or Jupiter, but we did have all that ejected fragments blobbed together, and they created the moon. So that left the Earth spinning on its wobbly axis with a tilt of about 23.5 degrees. Now, Brian, what impacts that had on Earth's weather?
Well, so that tilt, it stays the same throughout the year as the Earth goes around the sun, as this diagram will show. But because it stays the same, what it means is that at one point in the year, the northern hemisphere is facing towards the sun and has its summer. And 6 months later, the opposite occurs with the southern hemisphere facing towards the sun and it getting its summer.
Yes.
Basically, there are, as you're probably going to say in a minute, the seasons do vary, of course, at different latitudes.
Yes. I mean, look at the sorry, I'm having a mare tonight. Look at the angle of the sun coming in here. I mean, to the UK, if we do that at someone was standing up in the UK, that's about 65 degrees or so. But then in June, like we are at the moment, but then when we get into winter and the sun's coming from south of the equator, we have a much lower angle. It's only actually about 15 degrees at that time of year. And check out what's happening over here at the North Pole and in the Arctic Circle. We can see that that's getting light all the way across the top. So they have 24-hour light. And at the moment in the Antarctic Circle, they're not getting any light at all. And it obviously swaps around as the seasons change. So yeah, that's quite a difference, isn't it, Brian? Our climate.
It absolutely is. It really is.
Yeah. We can see there the path, the impact of the sun in summer and in winter, and what impact does that have on the seasons? So this is a good way to, or rather, what impact does it have creating the seasons? Because the very reason we have seasons is because of this tilt that the Earth has. So, I mean, what do you think about that, Brian and Sryan, regarding the seasons and look at the different ones we have?
What I would say is, growing up in the UK, or anyone who's grown up in our latitude, Ireland, Europe, North America, we just assume that we may just assume that everywhere has a summer, autumn, winter, and spring. But of course, you can see from the graphic that's not really the case, because in the tropics it's just wet or dry seasons, and in the polar regions it's different again. So what we have isn't the same for everyone.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, just 2 seasons in the tropics. If I draw the equator on, which is roughly through there, we can split the tropics in 2 between Cancer and Capricorn. Up here in the Arctic, we've only got 2 seasons, which is the day and the night. And
just on that point, Alistair, that's another amazing thing. Of course, when you get to the poles, I think it's correct to say that the sun only rises once a year and it only sets once a year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Hey, going into that light, I was reading about Svalbard, which is an island a long way off the north coast of Norway. It's about where's Norway? It's somewhere.
Yeah, that's Svalbard.
Is that it? Is that it? That might be it there, possibly. Yeah, they're light the whole time from April through to August. So they obviously they have that. But then the other flip side is that when they're in winter, they have the 4 months of darkness. So yeah, not too hot. Now, what about the rain then? So we've got the wet. Let's look over here. We've got the wet and the dry. How does that work, Brian? Why would it be wet or dry?
So the rain belt moves northwards and southwards through the course of the year. Basically, it's following the sun. So when you get into the north of the equator, for example, in the Caribbean, the wet season is really what we think of as, you know, the spring and the summer for us. So and that's why, for example, in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, they play cricket during, you know, December, January, February, because that's when it tends to be drier and more settled.
Yes. So for the side of the tropics, so this side we're discussing sort of here from Cancer down to the equator. Over there, they have the wet season when we're having summer, which is now. So for the Caribbean, for parts of Southeast Asia, and then when it's our winter, for example, north of Australia or Indonesia, Bali, a well-known tourist destination. In our winter, which is sort of broadly October to March, I think that's classed as their wet season. So,
yeah.
I mean, arguably in the UK, we've just got one wet season that lasts 12 months of the year.
That's a good one, Brian. I said this year someone decided to split it up a bit and give it all in February and the start of March, and it seems to have restarted about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a very unusual year so far.
Yeah,
that's an understatement.
Yes. So let's say we didn't have those seasons. Now, Brian, I understand you've been reading some studies about this. How would it be, Brian, if we didn't have those seasons? What would life on Earth be like?
Well, it's not my expertise, as you say, but I have been reading studies, and the belief is that large parts of the Earth would not be inhabitable if we didn't have those seasons. You know, you'd get north of a certain latitude and it would be too cold, and south of a certain latitude towards the equator and it would be too hot. So you'd have life tending to congregate between, you know, in mid-latitude locations only. It would have to be over a smaller area, so that would introduce a number of problems and difficulties.
Yeah, let me just pop up that screen share again. So if we're saying that large parts in the north would be uninhabitable because they'd be too cold because they wouldn't have summer. So we are obviously theorizing a bit here, but hey, let's have a bit of fun, hey. So we can certainly put the red line, assuming the Arctic would be uninhabitable. Obviously, there's only a few hundred scientists down in the Antarctic, but what if that line came a bit further south? What if it came through, for example, there? So we're wiping out quite a bit of Scandinavia and Canada. Sorry to our friends in northern Scotland, they might be uninhabitable there as well. And we're going to put this as a big like this. This is like no man's land, and the same. If we do the same theory down here, let's have a no man's land down here, and then we've also got the no man's land around the tropics. This is the equator going through here, and if it was just too hot around the equator, let's take out, say for argument's sake, let's not go over the top, let's just take out half the distance up to the Tropic of Cancer and half the distance down to the Tropic of Capricorn. We suddenly wiped out masses of population across Brazil, Argentina, Central Africa, Southeast Asia. You've got everyone congregating in these areas, like area number 1 there, area number 2. And from the studies that I was reading about it, Brian, it seems that if people did manage to survive in those areas, our humanity would never have developed into anything like the civilizations which we've built. The reason being is that we've never been able to grow in the way we have and move on to more land, creating agricultural communities which started about 10,000 BC. We'd also be ravaged by tropical diseases, mosquitoes, and amazingly enough, winter is credited as being the reason why our civilization has developed how it is. The reason being that winter is actually very good for lots of crops. Some crops are planted in spring, lots of crops go in autumn, and then winter actually helps them, and then something to do with their seeds, and they grow.
It's an interesting one. I mean, in my garden, I struggle to grow seeds in the summer and spring, but yeah, as you say, a lot of farmers plant in the autumn, don't they? So yes. Obviously the winter is beneficial.
Yeah, one of the really fascinating thing, which I read in the studies about this, is that the Industrial Revolution would never have happened if we didn't have winters. So people were forced in a way to create new ideas to find ways to keep warm, to create steam power. So thanks to winter, thanks to the seasons, humans are the race we are.
Yeah, I guess hardship drives innovation much of the time. So that's the seasons must have made it very difficult.
Yeah. So that's been how we are. So it's all thanks to this planet Thea walloping us, giving us our incredibly perfect climate, generally not too hot, not too cold, and it's allowed civilization to develop in the way it has. So Brian, I've got a question for you. We're having the longest days of the year in the UK and obviously all the Northern Hemisphere at the moment. Why are these not our hottest days of the year?
Well, we get something that's called thermal lag. So what that means is,
Now,
I thought we were going to get through to the end of the show tonight without one of those. I thought I was, keeping quiet, doing my press-ups and...
Sorry, the last time I heard that expression, it was my plumber who was
that's
talking
good.
about
You must have a good plumber.
Thermal lag. No, he was saying you don't want to get burst pipes. He was talking about thermal lag.
If you don't like your pipes properly, I think he meant, but yeah.
So what's Weatherman's thermal lag?
So as he was saying, we get our highest temperatures a month in the UK, a month or so on average after the summer solstice, and the coldest temperatures, about a month after the winter solstice. And the reason for that really is that there's this lag. So in the summer, the oceans are still heating up, and the heat's building and building, and they're not reaching the highest point until about a month after the solstice. And in winter, it's the opposite effect. It's like a storage heater. The oceans and the land, the European landmass is cooling down, but it's slowly losing that heat. So after the solstice, the winter solstice has passed, the air temperatures are still falling.
And that later in the winter, there also tends to be less sea modification of the cold air masses.
Yeah, and that's right. And also, especially in Western Europe, it's another factor is that the later in the winter, the westerly flow tends to ease a little bit, so we're more likely to get continental air masses pushing westwards across Western Europe and in Britain and Ireland. So that lag does vary in different parts of the world. It's not a month everywhere. I think in places it's up to 2 months, and in other places the lag may be only 15 or 20 days. It really depends in large parts on the location, the geography. Okay,
so we've obviously got some, despite the thermal lag effect, we have got some cracking weather this week. Now, bearing in mind, Brian will have to do some more press-ups on the next show in 2 weeks' time, July the 8th, if he gets his forecast wrong now. Brian, how's it looking going forwards? Obviously, pubs, hotels, restaurants are opening in the UK from July the 4th, but I hear there's going to be some rain on the way.
Well, it's typical, isn't it? There's some real horrible charts around at the moment. The computer models, they're not uniformly bad, not by any means. So maybe not a washout. But some of the computer models in the last day or two have been churning out some absolute horror fests with deep areas of low pressure moving in from the Atlantic, bringing, heavy showers and more persistent spells of rain right across Ireland and the UK and into much of Western Europe, actually.
Right.
But fingers crossed it won't be as bad. We'll probably end up somewhere a little bit closer to the average, I would think. If you're going to ask me the highest temperature for the next 2 weeks, that is a bet that I will take with you today. Or if you're going to ask me when it is, because I'm pretty confident it's going to be tomorrow.
Right, which looks like another hot one, doesn't it? Maybe 33 degrees or so.
Then afterwards, it's going to be cooler and much closer to the average. We may see it warm up again next week, temporarily, maybe 26, 27 Celsius. In the London area, but it looks like quite a fleeting glimpse of summer next week if that does happen. So
and obviously that risk of the rain, I should be packing my brolly then if I'm going to a pub beer garden next weekend.
Yeah, but at least you're going to get your pint glass filled up free of charge, I would
imagine. So right, okay. What about max temps then? What would you sorry, Shrine, I beg your pardon. I should have come to you first, Shrine. What do you expect for the next couple of weeks, Shrine, for UK? And Shrine, just give us a flavour what you expect for Ireland, because obviously you're based in
I think some charts, especially those that Brian mentioned, are going over the top with the deep areas of low pressure. I think it'll be a typical northwest-southeast split because teleconnections support that. I won't go into detail about them because they get too complicated.
Shrine, I would hate to get this out.
I think we should card it for that, but I think we might do a teleconnections episode, so perhaps you'll come back.
Teleconnect? You mean I have to get the TV engineer round to sort out my signal? Is that what you mean?
People get very excited about them, especially as we go into the winter months. But
oh yeah,
right, okay.
But yeah, typical northwest southeast split with the wettest weather being in the northwest Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the driest warmest weather being southeast. But all places get some rain at times, like typical westerly British summer. You know.
Right. Okay. So we've had the hot burst, and we're back to typical weather for when the pubs open, which probably won't affect them being as busy as they're allowed to be.
Yeah.
Desperate to get back in the pub, but it won't be quite as nice as it was when they were closed for 3 months when it was baking hot in spring.
Critical, isn't it? It really is.
So Brian, we've had 33. Will we get over 33 later in summer?
Well, as I'm going to stick with the forecast that I issued at the end of May on the weather outlook, and I've not been expecting a great summer, and I still don't think we're going to have a fantastic one. Don't think it's going to be a washout either, but July to me looks pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
I'll be wrong. But at this point, I'm going for the hottest conditions to be in August, the most settled conditions at least.
Right, and what sort of max temps would you go for, Brian?
Well, I think we were saying earlier we reached 32.6 today, and I previously said I think the highest temperature this summer is likely to be 34 Celsius. We might just reach it tomorrow. I don't think we'd go much higher than that in August, so I'm going to stick at 34, possibly a degree higher, but 34 would be my preferred choice still.
Okay, we'll go around the table then, around the virtual table. Shrine, you're next. What would you go for a max UK temperature? And let's throw in an Ireland max temperature as well, hey, because that's your patch of the world.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a max temperature of 32.9 tomorrow will be the max temperature for the whole summer.
I think that's a clever move. I'd be sorely tempted. I've mentioned that a couple of times on Twitter recently that today or tomorrow could turn out to be the hottest day of the summer.
However, I must give this caveat. Every summer since 2015 has seen at least 34 Celsius.
Yeah.
And so that's a very dangerous prediction for this day and age.
I would agree with that too.
It's exactly the sort of prediction I'd like to make in a weather story. But then I'd be concerned what happens when we get to 36 in a few weeks' time. And then I get various people in the weather community ranting at me for saying that.
And as for Ireland, I think tomorrow we'll hit what May's maximum was around 26 point something. So tomorrow I expect it's going to be a bit warmer, say 26.9 tomorrow in Ireland.
Yeah. And what about
which is mediocre
every year for Ireland?
What, sorry?
Do you think that will be the hottest day of the year for Ireland?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be the lowest maximum temperature in this country since 2015.
Okay. So only 27 for Ireland. Bryce, I won't pin you down on Irish weather, but I will on British weather. What are you expecting for max temp in the rest of summer? Will we beat the 33 or so we're having today and tomorrow, or not?
For the rest of summer.
Yeah.
I think we will. I think we will, because the British weather, in the past summers has always surprised us with the maximum temperature that.
So what sort of max temp would you pick, please, Bryce, for the rest of summer?
I'm going to say 34. Oh, no, 34 and a half.
34 and a half. Okay, Dave, what do you expect? What do you expect weather-wise for the rest of summer, and what do you expect for a max temp?
Well, I don't know about weather-wise, but I'll make a guess on. I reckon we'll see 35.5.
Okay.
Sometime this summer, perhaps in August.
Okay, sounds good. Hello, Stan. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Stan.
Hi.
We're going to put you on the spot immediately. We don't mess around on blowing hot and cold. We're doing max temps. We're going to see in the UK in the rest of summer in the context of the 33 or so we're having today and tomorrow. What temperature do you expect?
34 degrees. I expect over 34 degrees over the next couple of days.
Okay. Would you expect we'll get higher than that later in summer, or would you expect that'll be the max?
Well, I don't expect too many more heat waves, as I reckon as we progress through the summer, it will only get worse. So maybe July will bring a higher temperature at some point, but maybe I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Thanks a lot for your input. I'm going to go top of the shop, 36.5. I said that a few weeks ago, and I've got a lot of faith in some more Spanish plumes or continental heat coming north. They do tend to crop up at short notice, as Brian and I found out to our cost this evening. So that's what I'm going for. Now, we've just got time for a couple of more questions before we wrap up for the evening. So who would like to chip in with something? And the floor's open. It could be about absolutely anything just before we wrap up the show.
Yes, I have something.
Okay.
So there's a station located in London Heathrow, which I've seen quite a few queries whether that station should be eliminated, since usually when we have heat waves, that's where the highest temperature of the day comes from. Debating whether you'd remove that station or not.
So do you think should we ditch Heathrow? You're asking, sorry, should we ditch Heathrow? Yeah. Okay, well, why don't I go first on that one, just with a bit of historical context. It had the hottest ever, was it June or July temp there, about 3 years ago?
July 2015.
Okay, and it was in Wimbledon, and it was about, it was ridiculously hot, hundreds of people fainting. But at Heathrow, the next day or the day after, the Daily Telegraph ran a story saying, was that max temp, which I think was possibly a record for the month, was that actually caused by a blast of hot air from a passing airliner? So people say that it's near a load of tarmac, which, not to risk a yellow card, you might call that a thermal island, I suppose, a thermal island of heat, I suppose.
Let you off.
What's your view on that, Brian?
Well, it is a controversial one, isn't it, Heathrow? My view is this. It's very simple to me. The World Meteorological Organization stipulate the conditions that are required for a weather station to be valid. Heathrow either is or it isn't.
Right. Okay. So maybe we'll have to write to the.
My understanding is, if pushed for a more deterministic answer, my understanding is that it does meet the requirements. For example, last year it didn't record the highest temperature, the record-breaking temperature. That was at Cambridge Botanical Gardens. Now, there was a big debate about that weather station too, and whether or not the surrounding area of grass was 1.5 meters or however big it has to be from the Davy, from the Stevenson screens. Sorry, they called it a Davy screen for some reason, but from the Stevenson Shield. How far? So that was controversial too. Now it seems to me that whenever a record's broken, it's now controversial.
Yeah, I suppose it was a situation where the playing field's not level. So, for example, when Scotland only last summer, wasn't it? I think had a 33.2 measured.
2018.
Or 2018 was it? Sorry, but it was chalked off because a car had been running its engine nearby.
Motherwell.
Well, I think that's a good example of where the record does deserve to be chopped off. I mean, that was a fiasco, but I think the debate about Heathrow and Cambridge Botanical Gardens is slightly different and a bit more nuanced.
Yeah. Okay. So we've just got time for maybe one or two more really quick questions. Bryce, do you have anything to chip in with? Dave, anything you'd like to ask?
was just wondering, what do you guys think about the risk of thunderstorms over the next couple of days? Because the Met Office think it's quite likely for thunderstorms to break out, and they've issued a couple of weather warnings, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, my take on that, then I'll throw it open, obviously, is that certainly GFS model looks like it's going to bring thunderstorms into western areas on, I think, Thursday night, and then spread northeastwards through Friday. The risk looks to be quite extensive, doesn't it? But there seems to be a lot of energy and lift in the atmosphere to support thunderstorms. But as ever, they do tend to be quite hit and miss. So it's always very difficult to be precise about that.
Right. What do you expect, Shrine, for the UK and the thunderstorm risk? Are we going to see some floods? We obviously had floods only about 10 days ago with a downpours.
Yeah, throwback to 90s, as I say. That was when we got proper thunderstorms. I do think there is quite a significant chance for quite the event. The West Country and Wales obviously is at most risk the Thursday evening and Friday or morning, and Northeast England and Eastern Scotland, I think, is a higher risk on Friday evening and Saturday morning. But as I said, I do think there is a significant risk because it is quite a southerly airflow, and does look like there is a heat low that's going to develop from the south as well at the same time. They destabilize.
Yeah, right. So we might have some firecrackers, Brian. I'm quoting your own tweets at you now, claiming them as my own. Okay, so we're just about wrapping up there. I just got a couple of questions, one for Dave and one for Stan. We'd just be interested, please, Dave, if you'd like to go first. Just ask your opinion in one sentence about this show. So it's really just saying what you think in one sentence. You mentioned you watched the previous show. No swear words, please. If you could just give us a sentence about what you think about Blowing Hot and Cold, please.
I think it's great. I mean, as I say, I watched the last one on YouTube, and I was really interested to join it again tonight because it's just nice to listen to people talking about weather. It's people who really know what they're talking about. I'm just have a keen interest as an amateur, So it's really nice to hear people who actually proper in depth.
Yeah.
And you get answers to some of the things which you've always wondered, really.
Yeah.
A little bit more in depth, not going too far, But when you listen to normal weather forecasts, broadcasts, it's all fairly superficial, fairly basic, and you often want to ask questions: why that? A little bit more detail, and this is what we're getting.
Do you think it's about the right length? Half an hour or whatever it is we're doing, or a bit longer, isn't it?
About that. Yes, I would say it's about the right length. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So Stan, I know you've been on the show before. I don't think we had a chance to ask you then. Could you just give us a sentence on what you think about this weather chat and what you make of it, please?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good time to chill out, to relax. I reckon the show will grow in the future. You'll have more new participants. And it's fun interacting with others, see what other people think. So I like to pop in. I like to pop in more in the future as well.
Yeah, great.
So are you in Poland, Stan?
Yeah, I'm in Poland.
So when the winter comes along and you're getting lots of snow, perhaps you can share the webcam or something.
Yeah. Not like last winter. Last winter was dreadful.
Oh, I know, but that was exceptional. That's
whereabouts
in Poland are you? In which part? Which region?
I'm actually now based in the east of Warsaw.
Okay, so up in the north there somewhere.
Well, yeah, central mainly. Central.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Our next Blowing Hot and Cold live weather video chat is in 2 weeks tonight. It's Wednesday, the 8th of July, 8:30 p.m. Thank you for joining us. Thank you particularly to Shrine for joining us. Thank you very much for joining us, Shrine.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. So thanks a lot to Brian.
Pleasure, and don't forget to watch Blowing Hot and Cold on YouTube, as well as send your questions and topics you'd like to be discussed in future episodes via Twitter or the Weather Outlook.
Thanks, Brian. So yeah, tune in 2 weeks tonight, July the 8th. This was Blowing Hot and Cold. It's the world's first live weather video chat, and you'll never have seen a weatherman or a journalist doing press-ups on air before, but you have now. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.